ancient Carib or Taino word huracan, meaning devil wind. These raging winds have ripped across the Atlantic Ocean, pummeling the Caribbean since the dawn of time. In more recent history, these storms have repeatedly flattened the early West Indian colonies. In 1780, one of the greatest ever hurricanes swept the Caribbean, touching every island from Tobago to Cuba, leaving 20,000 dead in its wake. Grenada is one of the smallest independent nations in the Western Hemisphere. It has seen more than its fair share of turmoil. Earthquakes, volcanic threat, hurricane, and a bloody coup that led to the intervention of armed forces from CARICOM and the United States. And yet, nothing could prepare Grenadians for the unmerciful beating that Ivan was to inflict on them.
We have had alarms saying the hurricane is coming, but the people were not fully prepared.
So we just, well, yeah, it's gonna pass, you know.
They just shrug it off.
Everybody thought they were going to simply ride it out.
Because we didn't have a hurricane for 49 years.
We knew Ivan was in the region, but we didn't know it was coming this way until it really was almost on us.
But they were not prepared for the devastation. People were not as sensitive as they should have been.
It seemed anywhere else except Grenada.
We took a direct hit.
So when it struck, as I said, the whole operations collapsed.
We just about lost everything.
Well, I don't know how long it's going to take for Grenada to get back to normal, but from my point of view, I doubt we'll ever get back to how we were before.
People have always been lighthearted in Grenada about storms and that sort of thing. If a storm comes by and somebody gets their roof blown off, it's almost taken as a joke. But what happened? You don't have a good roof on. The lightheartedness did not really ease up per se, although some people took it quite seriously. Most of us didn't. We did prepare though, as best as we can, but I don't think anywhere adequately enough. The real action started at 2, and it wasn't a case that it died down, it just started and it continued. Around that time, going around the house, just, looking at things, looking at windows. When I got to the living room, I started hearing the galvanized, the roof making a weird sound. So I'm like, I have a weird feeling. I told my wife, I have a weird feeling. When the first section of the roof went, I still had a phone. My phone service was still on. Called my dad and said the roof is on. He's like, what are you talking about? You're joking. You mean the galvanized gone? I'm like, no, the whole roof. And he's like, he didn't believe me. This kitchen area, the whole roof, from this side, go right down to the end. There was sky, only sky. There was nothing there.
I am Dorothy Chichester, owner and manager of Chichester's Nursing Home.
Could you tell me a little bit about how you prepared for Hurricane Ivan?
Well, sometime, morning time, you had conflicting reports that the hurricane is going through Barbados or passing Tobago, wherever. It seemed anywhere else except Grenada, so you really didn't pay much attention.
Could you tell me a little bit about what the experience of Hurricane Ivan was like?
I tell you, I was so, what should I say, busy and concerned about the safety of the patients, because I had about 24, that I don't even know what I was thinking. Rather than to get them to safety. It started about 3 with the winds gradually strengthening, you know. So I moved some over to my quarters, and we were in there. My daughter was there with me also. And during the early hours or late hours in the evening, we were in a little closed closet, a couple of us, and holding on to one another. And then my daughter said, the roof in the living room seemed to be gone. So I said, the roof gone? I said, but I only hope my chandelier is standing. She said, I said that the roof is gone. Because you know, you just couldn't believe. It seemed like a dream.
In 1955, a storm developed at 13 degrees north and headed across the Atlantic towards Barbados and the windwards. Winds reached speeds of 150 miles per hour and gusting higher. This giant brushed Barbados' south coast and caused the worst damage since 1898. That morning, U.S. Navy Hurricane Hunter flew into Janet and was never seen again. Hurricane Janet left 20,000 homeless in Barbados and 104 dead in Grenada. But these memories fade fast. People soon become complacent and assume that it will never happen again. They were wrong.
Going down into Grenada, I was a little bit worried, to say the least. When I first saw the island, we approached the island from the north. And at first it was a little difficult to see if there was any change. But then what I started to notice were the trees. It struck me, there were no leaves. And went through the airport, it was eerie. It was the lights, there was no electricity, there was water all over the place, there was broken glass, there was waterlogged furniture. It was ghoulish. A co-pilot and myself, we hopped on the back of a pickup truck and we drove to my parents' home. I went around, we looked at the damage. There was a debris field around our home. We looked at the damage inside, and it was heartbreaking when you looked at the damage. When we looked at the neighbors, the damage, it was unbelievable.
We were never really that serious, or not serious enough, about natural disasters, hurricanes. And pretty much so, I think this hurricane was a particularly horrific one. And so everybody in Grenada, I think, have some sort of post-traumatic disorder in terms of the way they would deal with it. For me, I thought I was all right, until I admitted to myself that I was taking it on, and then realized that, look, it really did affect you that bad. I don't think there's any way to really prepare for that experience. I think you could prepare as much as you can. I remember the next day I said to my wife, concrete, everything. Top to bottom, roof, everything. I think that was the first thought in everybody's mind. Basically, you create a bunker, like a bomb shelter. That's the only way to prepare for what has happened, including food supplies. Because the main concern after wasn't, it was funny because all of a sudden drinking water, something that you take for granted, was so important. Yes, you had some stocks, but not for the extent that you expected. Most people, I had an appointment the next day. I'd already booked appointments for the next day, and Everybody thought they were going to simply ride it out. We're going to get a little bit of damage, but those would be the homes that are not properly constructed, perhaps.
When I reached here, it was raining, plenty rain. So by the time 4 o'clock, we had heavy winds and rain. So we had time to get the children in because they came from school early. So then we stayed, the rain continued. When about 4:30 to 5 o'clock, there was a very severe wind. And like you could see the wind balling up, like it come with a tornado. I wouldn't say it's a storm. When we seen all the galvanized from the outer district out there flying out to Mount Parnassus, going out on the outer side. When it was about 5:30, we heard a big crash at the top of the house. The galvanized started coming out, the wind started blowing heavier, the ceiling started busting. The damage that was done, we had the whole back of the roof come out. We had a shed in the back where we spread in clothes. So when you spread the clothes, they can get wet, it stay there and dry. We don't see that roof disappeared. We had the back, all the galvanized come from the back, it disappeared, we never see anything. And up till now, we have a lot of leaks. Right now, where this rain coming now, all about wetting. If you just go and look inside, all about wetting. I have blanket in our apartment there. It have a bucket there taking water. In the back of the kitchen where we have like the storeroom, they're flowing with water right now. You on the toilet, rain wetting you. You in the washroom, rain wetting you. You in the kitchen lighting the stove, the water fall right on your head, come down to your face. You have to put buckets to take up water. I got a room where we have change like the staff room. When I go to sleep at night and it rains, I have to push the bed one side and lie down one side of the bed because it rains and they're wet.
There was not a lot that we could do in terms of battening down, except just put things into position where perhaps the least amount of damage would be done. We secured as much of our valuables as we could. I don't think that it would have mattered how much more we had done. I mean, the scene was just devastation. Every roof was removed. And it was not in the vicinity either. It was many yards away in pieces. We had to cut our way through the trees to get to the school because just about everything in this area fell or was reduced in size by about half. All the roofs were gone. There was total wreckage, total devastation. Very little of the furniture, all the books. In a ways, we were fortunate in that we were able to get school up and going again within 3 weeks of the hurricane. But you will find that these tents are the standard classrooms now for just about all of the schools in Grenada. All the schools in Grenada were damaged and in many cases destroyed, not just damaged.
I'm Leslie Ramdani, a member of the Rotary Club of Grenada East. We are involved in the rebuilding of the St. Joseph's Convent Secondary School. Our group in Grenada, our Rotary group, got together and visited the Ministry of Education because we were particularly interested in schools and inquired of them which schools were the ones that needed support. They indicated that some schools had sponsors, organizations sponsored the rebuilding of the schools. St. Joseph's Convent, however, was one of the buildings that was not sponsored. And we, as Rotarians, undertook to do the repairs to this building. Starcom Network, of whom Vic Finance is also a Rotarian, and they mounted this telethon in Barbados. And they have raised approximately $1 billion Barbados dollars, all towards our effort here in Grenada. We decided to replace the entire roof structure of the convent because the existing structures, apart from the storm damage, we realized that some of the existing structures were been a school over 50 years, were rotten. Some of the rafters and so. So we decided to replace the entire roof. This is something that the government could not have handled by themselves. And I'm sure they're very, very grateful for Rotary coming into this project and undertaking to do this, a project of this magnitude.
Boy, it was frightening because you cannot see what's happening outside. It's not stopping. You can't get no information. I mean, no radio, everything was, we never thought it would have been like that. Eventually, when there was a lull, I said, well, we have to come and get everybody downstairs. So what is the next move? How are we going down the steps? And we were thinking and wondering, and you have to look for nails and pieces of thing. So eventually we were able to get, and we crawled to the other end, and there were 1 or 2 patients just waiting. We just grabbed them and we head for downstairs. We had to put wheelchair with patients downstairs. Then when we got there, 1 small room, 2 beds.
24 patients.
I don't think you had time to think. Your main thought was to get them to safety. That was the main thing.
But what we discovered, it wasn't safe, because when everything started going, rafters were going in the air, some falling back in, so there were quite horrific sounds. One fell on the kitchen, one fell on the cooker, mashed that up. Television sets, mashed that up. So from 2 to about 5:30, it was quite severe. I think the worst part of it came more like around 4, when it really got serious, really serious. And we were trying to get downstairs, but we couldn't, because we were basically trapped upstairs. In that sense, we could have taken it more seriously and go downstairs far earlier, but we didn't. I was running between this corridor and that door, trying to see the exit. Debris was hitting the building from all sides, from pieces of galvanized to tree limbs, you name it. Everything. And so the paths that we had to escape through, we just couldn't. I just wasn't prepared to take the chance. No, not with my family. We decided to go to the smallest room in the house, which was the bathroom, and we used the cushions as a bunker above us and on the side of us. Now, while we were in there, that's when things really was getting bad, because then the actual galvanized for the bathroom went. So we were now immersed in water. I was lying in water with my foot on the door, with the door rattling, you know. And this door was rattling, and furniture was going up and down this corridor. And a couple of times I looked out. What I noticed, there was a twister right just outside the building, because you can see it is like a white sheet with leaves and branches just spinning around. But once the eye came, you know enough about hurricanes that this is the eye. What was interesting was that the eye lasted about 15 minutes, which would indicate that you were the hurricane was like directly in your path. I mean, you were right in the middle of it. And it was calm, nothing, it was still. There weren't any birds chirping, no wind whatsoever. And that was the time when you heard, like, probably about the first 10 seconds, you realized, look, this is the eye, let's move. To be honest, I laughed. Because if you cannot begin to describe what has happened, I just giggled. I really did. It was strange, but you know, the things that are within your control and things that you have no control over, there's nothing you can do about it. So that was my initial reaction. I was just amazed with the destruction.
Could you tell me a little bit about about the impact of Hurricane Ivan, not only on Grenada, but specifically on the agricultural industry? I mean,
well, the hurricane has devastated the industry. We estimate that we lost somewhere between 80 and 90% of the nutmegs, which is really the major player in the sector. We lost in the short term 100% of the bananas. Forestry was very hard hit, and again, a lot of the, especially the reserves and forested areas in the middle of the island suffered really badly, and we have severe devastation.
The way the nutmeg fell, it all seems to fall going that way. The wind came from the bottom and just blew them all down that way. 150 miles per hour wind, you know. Couldn't stop that. Yeah. I used to get something like call it with a pickup about 3 bags of nutmeg here, 4 bags of nutmeg every week.
You're talking about persons who had some means of income, and for some of them there's absolutely nothing now.
75% of the land here was nutmeg trees. It would have been very hard to count them, but I would say it's about 75%. And this is 5.5 acres, so there was a lot. All this here was nutmegs everywhere.
So we have even had deaths. Some of the older farmers who just couldn't take the shock, the trauma of going to their farm and seeing everything destroyed. You know, we had a lot of funerals immediately after the storm of the older farmers. They're 60 years old or 65 years old, and they can't see themselves invested in a commodity that will take the next 10 years.
No, to me nutmeg is a thing of the past. In this area, yes. Because I wouldn't see nutmeg in my lifetime again, you know, to plant nutmeg and to grow nutmeg in my lifetime. It takes too long, you know.
It's 5 to 6 years before you start to see fruit, and then another 10, probably around 10, 12 years before you actually get economic type yields. The main emphasis of the government so far has been on the rehabilitation program, and in this we have paid farmers and their workers to go back to the farms and actually start doing the cleaning up. Once that is complete, then come June, we'll have plants provided. We have on order 100,000 banana plantlets. Because before you plant nutmegs, you have to plant bananas as shade.
Spice is going to take some while before you come back here. It's a shame. And I don't think many people planting any spice right now anyway, you know. I'm not really thinking about the nutmegs at all. I'm going to concentrate on the bananas. That way I could make a living from it. Yeah. Yeah, banana and fruits. Yes. I'm going to put as many fruit trees I could get in between them. Oranges, grapefruits, mandarin, you know, things like that. And hoping that we'll get a few to suck before we passed on. You know.
This is the family now. Diana and her 9 children live in that little one room up here.
okay.
Because as you'll see in a moment here, when the hurricane hit, it totally destroyed everything they had, 100%. And you'll see in a moment, all that was left was one post and the cement steps, period. Everything else was totally destroyed. And then they, in turn, then, in conjunction with their friends, put together this room, which was built after the hurricane, for she and 9 children to be in, which you'll see in a minute. All 9 children sleep on the floor. This is it. No plumbing, no water, nothing. But it's housing. The thing that inspired us really was just being here and seeing the devastation. All the people with nothing. No clothes, no home, nothing. Everything destroyed. When you drive around and you cry enough, then you have to say, stop crying. What can we do as fellow human beings to help our brothers and sisters out, to have a home, to have a house, and to regain the belongings that were all destroyed?
No, well, at the time of the hurricane, I felt it was dangerous for me anyway. The breeze was blowing, the house was rocking, And it wasn't about 20 minutes after we left home, the house went down flat. I think I would have died.
The event of the hurricane affected people in Grenada in general, as far as you can tell.
Bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. But a lot of people is homeless. On we side over here is still a bit. You see all back over there? It's like most of them people put back, you know, trying to put in little spots, little places to stay now. But then everything was flat down. Staying over here, you couldn't see houses much up. Yeah.
Grenadians, you find that people are supporting each other, looking after each other, or?
In a way. And still, I mean, there are times like, even though you have and you could help, they might figure like somebody passed by you, so you have, you know, but they're not thinking that, okay, what a person might bring for you is not really that what you need. It's a little rough still, but, you know, I'm praying to the Lord still.
Holding on.
Holding on.
Our main goal is to build 2,000 homes in Grenada. It is estimated Grenada needs approximately 13,000 homes. 13,000. That's 1/3 of the housing stock in Grenada.
I think what I would say as Minister for Tourism is that the hurricane has really put a blow on the tourism industry, in particular the stay-over visitors, because many of the major hotels have been damaged and they are into major reconstruction at this time. Some of them are going to be expanding on the room stock so that the quality of the product will be better than it was prior to Ivan.
We're certainly taking the opportunity to upgrade and probably do more than we had anticipated that we may have done under normal conditions.
Every month we have new rooms coming on stream, and this is how we are doing it. In terms of, so the stay-over visitors is a challenge for us.
Once the hotel sector gets back up and running, and some are coming on stream.
We would be using the opportunity also at this time to provide training for persons in the sector, because this way you don't have to close down the hotel is already closed. So it means that when they go back to work, they would have been prepared better, more skills.
At the end of January into February, you'll probably have 1 or 2 hotels which are offering more rooms.
Okay.
Because as construction is going on.
We're looking at developing some new products for the cruise industry, for the tourism industry. So our attraction sites, we are working on all of that. So we believe that at the end of it all, we would have a better product to sell.
How does the future look? Are people upbeat about the future? Are people depressed and ready to give up? By your estimation, how do things look for Grenada?
Well, I think the time for being depressed is past. Most people are coming to the realization that they have to get up and get. We have to make do with whatever is provided and try our best to get our lives back in order. I mean, when we look at what has happened in Asia recently, we realize that the scale of their devastation, although we have been terribly devastated, is still nothing we should cry about. And I think Grenadians have shown themselves to be resilient people, and that